M. Night Shyamalan. Here we go again. Let's do it. Trap stars Josh Harnett, Ariel Donahue, Salik Shyamalan, and Alison Pill. It's written and directed by M. Night, and this film is about a father and his daughter who go to a pop show in Philadelphia. When Harnett's character, Cooper, notices the heavy police presence around the venue, he finds out that the concert is actually a trap to catch a serial killer who just so happens to be Cooper. Apparently, Shyamalan pitched the idea for this as Silence of the Lambs at a Taylor Swift concert. For those of you who saw my review for The Watchers, you know that I think that Shyamalan always has interesting ideas, and I was really eager to see how this movie was going to be executed. I have to say, there are some things I really enjoyed about this movie. For one, it shows off some really high quality production value and some very well coordinated extras with the very pristine lighting and sound. I mean, you watch this, especially in the first act, and you feel like you're seeing this all unfold at, a Miley Cyrus or Olivia Rodrigo show or something of that sort. And it's true that, Salika Shyamalan, M. Night's daughter, did write a lot of these songs and does perform them, and they do kind of help create like an atmosphere. So for the acting, we have to talk about Josh Harnett. I really like him as an actor, especially in movies such as like Black Hawk Down and Sin City. After he was in an episode of Black Mirror, I'm really hoping for him to make a comeback, and he really does a great job playing this quirky, upbeat dad who loves his daughter, but then has another sinister personality which he's trying to hide. There are a few scenes with him that feel a little cringe, but I guarantee this was due to some very misguided writing and directing, and we will talk more about that later in the video. The girl who plays Riley, Cooper's daughter, also did a decent job. For a teenager who was psyched to see her pop idol perform, she really fit the part and definitely gave it her all in this movie. Even when it comes to minor characters, I thought there were some good casting choices. Like Jamie, the guy who works at the merchandise stand, actually provided some nice comic relief. Of course, Shyamalan does his classic cameo and thought it was kind of endearing and appropriate, though some might disagree. But let's look at where M. Night Shyamalan did go wrong. Now look, I'm not the kind of person that usually makes a big deal out of, plot holes or certain unanswered questions, but with the movie as unfocused as Trap, there were a lot of things that really stood out to me. In the beginning of the film, it's established that the daughter is having like a feud with some other girls at her school, and it's brought up several times because the other girls are also at the show, but it never really amounts to anything for the story. It's like, and once Cooper figures out that he's the target for being arrested, he acts super sketchy just by sneaking by a bunch of policemen for a cup of coffee, pushing a woman down the stairs, and then causing an oil explosions in the food court. How does anyone not notice this, especially with all the security cameras and additional police on site? In another scene, Lady Raven's in the bathroom while Cooper is angrily trying to break in. The whole time she's texting, video communicating, and going on Instagram Live, she never once thinks about just going out of the first story window and escaping? Like, what? People who watch my videos know that I prefer when movies show as opposed to telling. And one example in particular that happens towards the end, and I'm not going to get too much into spoiler talk, but it's where Cooper is having a dialogue with his wife, played by Alison Pill, who, for the record, I think is a very underrated actress, about their relationship and she knows the truth about him. I honestly feel like this was very poorly written, confusing exposition that could have been maybe substituted instead with like a flashback sequence, maybe of the wife looking at a concert ticket receipt or whatever. It definitely would have been a lot more effective than what we got. There were plenty of other moments in this movie that made me laugh. I'm not really sure that I was supposed to. I mean, there's just parts of the script and just certain lines and just scenes constantly that just don't feel like a professional Oscar-nominated screenwriter would put in. I mean, was Shyamalan trying to go for like a tongue-in-cheek vibe? I know I said like Jamie's role earlier as the comic relief, but a large majority of the movie, I really wasn't sure like what style Shyamalan was like trying to convey overall. If he was trying to blend horror and comedy, I mean, I really don't think he did a very good job. I mean, there's actually a lot more that I wanted to say about the movie Trap, but I feel like I would need to make maybe a spoiler review for that. I will say that most of my big issues in this film were really with the third act, which is after they leave the concert. There were too many parts that dragged, several times where I thought the movie was going to end only for another odd sequence to come in, and just a lot of WTF moments. I saw Trap with a bunch of my friends, and while going out to the movies was a fun experience, I really didn't like this film overall. My rating would be 3.5 out of 10. As someone that's seen all of Shyamalan's movies, if I were ever to, just talk to him one-on-one and just be in the same room with him, what I would just tell him is to maybe be more collaborative with your work, next time. Like one of his best recent films, Knock at the Cabin, it was based off the novel by Paul Tremblay, and he hired 2 additional writers when doing the screenplay. Created a lot of checks and balances. You have good ideas, man. Don't be afraid to, ask for help with the execution. Well, listen, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned. And if you guys noticed, actually, this book right here, this is The Man Who Heard Voices by Michael Bamberger. It's actually a biography that came out in 2006 about M. Night and the production of his movies, and it's actually a really good read. It's really, really fascinating, and, shouts to Chris Stuckman for turning me on to it, and I would highly recommend. Thank you so much for watching, as always. What do you think if you saw Trap or about M. Night Shyamalan? All right. Peace.